How's it going, everybody? Welcome to We Do Tech. Now for today's video we are going to take a look at the SaberPro 15 from Gigabyte. Now I have reviewed two other gaming laptops from Gigabyte, the P56 XT and the Aero 15X. Both were very nice laptops, but they were a bit more on the expensive side than what most people can actually afford. But luckily, Gigabyte does also have the SaberPro 15, which is not really that expensive, and you do still get all of the gaming performance you would want. So starting off with the specs of the SaberPro 15, currently there's only a single model out, but there are some changes in memory and storage, so you do have some options there. But the model I had here had an i7-7700HQ, which is able to boost to 3.8 GHz, 16 gigs of DDR4 memory running at 2400 MHz, which you can take up to 32 gigabytes. It has a GTX 1066 gig, 128 gigs of M.2 SSD storage, plus a 2 terabyte 2.5 inch mechanical drive, and then it also has a 15.6 inch Full HD IPS screen. And then as for price, the model I had here was retailing for 24,000 Rand on RebelTech here in South Africa, or $1,400 on Amazon. So this makes the SaberPro 15 fall right in the sweet spot for everything you get, with a decent hardware and also not a too high of a price tag. But what about the rest of the Saber 15 Pro? Well, taking a closer look at the Saber 15 Pro, it is a mid-sized gaming laptop measuring in at 390mm in width, 268mm in depth, and 25mm in height, and then also it weighs in at 2.5 kilograms. The entire design of the SaberPro is clean with a black brushed aluminum style back with the grey Gigabyte logo, so no fancy RGB to distract the other people in a meeting. As for when you open up the SaberPro, you're greeted with more of that black brushed aluminum style plastic, a full-size RGB backlit keyboard, and then also a nice large trackpad. The back panel does attract fingerprints quite easily, but on the inside that is a lot less of an issue. As for I/O, on the left side you get two USB 3.0 ports, a USB 3.1 Type-C port, and then a 3.5mm headphone and a microphone jack. Moving to the right side, you get a Kensington lock, another USB 3.0 port, and a SD card reader. Then as for the rest of the I/O, that is at the back. Now some might like this, some might not, but it does keep everything nice and clean. As for the back I/O, you get the DC power port, an HDMI port, a mini display port, and then a Gigabit Ethernet port. And then finally you do also get a dual band Wi-Fi and a Bluetooth version 4.2 for wireless connectivity. Now taking a closer look at the SaberPro's 15 screen, you get an anti-glare 1080p IPS display with a max refresh rate of only 60 Hz unfortunately. The screen does have some flex to it, but not more than usual for a laptop of this size and price. Color-wise, the IPS display does deliver clear and sharp colors for gaming and casual use. The display does cover 72% of the NTSC color gamut, which is roughly 95% of the sRGB color gamut. This means you will be able to use the SaberPro for some productivity work, but for a high professional quality, you are of course going to need to get a separate display, which you can plug into one of the display ports or HDMI ports. But again, just for gaming, the display is plenty and I really did enjoy my time gaming on it. The IPS screen does also deliver good viewing angles from the left and the right, but when looking from the bottom, that's a different matter however. Along with that, the display does have a matte anti-glare coating to prevent any sun or light glare blocking out the screen. Then as for the SaberPro's keyboard, you get a full-size 104 key layout with 4 RGB lighting zones that looks really nice. The backlight is just the right level of brightness to use it in day and at night without blinding yourself, but still be able to see. You're also able to adjust the brightness however by 5 different levels, with the last one turning it off. As for the effects, the SaberPro does not use Gigabyte's Fusion software to control the lighting. Instead, you will use the control center, which allows you to change the colors and the effects of the 4 different lighting zones. The keyboard does have some flex to it, but only when pressing down with more pressure than usual. But otherwise, it's felt fine. As for the keys, they do feel extremely nice for typing. They have a good tactile feel with a short, snappy response. They're also quiet enough to not bother all of the people around you when you're typing a comment on this video like a madman. Hopefully a positive one. For gaming, it does deliver a good job as well with that snappy response. Also, you do have enough space below the keyboard to comfortably rest your palm on, unlike a lot of other laptop keyboards where you have that awkward, uncomfortable typing position. Trackpad also won't bother you with your WASD hand being out of the way, but you are able to disable the trackpad when you're gaming just to be safe. Now, as for some secondary commands, the SaberPro does have all of the needed ones, like your media commands, screen brightness adjustments, airplane mode, and also max fan mode that will boost the fans to 100% for optimal cooling. But if that's not enough for you, you do also get 4 macro keys next to the power button. With these, you're able to program them to a certain lighting profile, power mode, or you can even create your own macro commands. I personally just set mine to the 4 power management modes to be able to access them a lot quicker. Taking a look at the trackpad, it is quite good. It's not excellent, however, but it is definitely better than most laptops at this price range that I've tested. The trackpad has a large smooth surface, which is accurate enough for more precise movements. You also get a dedicated left and right mouse button, so if you do like that, then it's a welcome feature. They do also have a nice click and a firm feel to them, which I did appreciate. And then as for the SaberPro's web camera and microphone, as you guys can hear, they're not really too great. You can pick up a lot of the background noise, and then also the quality of the webcam isn't that astonishing, but it'll work for all of your basic needs, just like Skype calls and all of that. But if you want to go for something a bit higher quality, you are going to have to get an external webcam or external microphone. As you guys can hear, all the dogs barking. So yeah. And taking a listen at the speakers, you get 2 2-watt front-facing speakers and a single 2-watt subwoofer underneath the SaberPro. As for the sound quality, the speakers does deliver a decent enough sound, delivering clear highs and good lows, but they aren't extremely loud, however. So it's not the best or loudest speakers you get, but it is good enough for when you don't have other dedicated speakers or a headset with you and you just want to listen to some music or watch a movie. As for the battery, the SaberPro comes out with a 53 watt-hour battery that will deliver around 4.5 hours of casual use and 3.5 hours of multimedia or web browsing. So you're not going to get a full day of work out of it without needing to connect it to power. As for the charger, you get a 108 watt adapter that is not too big or heavy for daily use. You'll be able to put it into your bag and it's not going to bother you that much. Taking a look at the benchmarks, I compared the SaberPro 15 to some of its bigger brothers like the P56 XT and the Aero 15X 2017 model, which both have GTX 1070s inside. So we know the SaberPro is not going to beat them, but I wanted to see how they would compare to each other. And it did actually quite well, with most of the games running on a max preset at 1080p. You're looking between 40 to 80 FPS depending on the game. So if you were to bump the graphics to a medium or a high, you would easily get over that 60 FPS target. As for the synthetic benchmarks, the GPU looked fine in the Unigen and in the 3D Mark benchmarks, but it did seem like the CPU was falling a bit behind in more of the CPU intensive tasks like Cinebench, even though both three have the exact same CPU. Now, cooling wise, the SaberPro did get quite hot, but luckily never thermal throttled when gaming or running IDA 64 stress test. As for the cooling system Gigabyte used, you get 2 fans and 5 heat pipes that would cool down the main components. The fans can get quite loud if you run them on max, but overall on idle and a light use, the noise was kept to a minimum, except for every now and then the fans would spin up and then quiet down again after a few seconds. So now in conclusion, the SaberPro is definitely a well-priced and well-spec'd gaming laptop. It'll be able to handle everything you throw at it, whether it's gaming, video editing, or just a normal work. The simple design makes it so that it doesn't really stand out that much, but it still has a really nice look to it, which I personally did like. I do also like that it has plenty of storage options with 2 M.2 slots and also the 2.5-inch bay. But unfortunately, the 2.5-inch drive does take up a lot of the space for the battery, so you do unfortunately lose out there a bit. But overall, the SaberPro 15 is a good laptop for not too much money, and it does take on its competitors with some really strong features. But then just a last quick note, I would like to see that Gigabyte refreshes the SaberPro 15 with Intel's new 6-core 8th generation CPUs. That would definitely just make it that much of a better buy, being awesome for gaming, for again video editing, for all of that. It's just going to make it that much better, and I really do hope they do that. But that's pretty much it for this review. A big thanks to Gigabyte South Africa for sending over the SaberPro 15 for this review. Also, if you guys want to get the SaberPro 15 for yourself, just check out the links in the video description where you can get it on RebelTech if you live in South Africa, and then also Amazon if you live somewhere else. But if you guys want me to review anything else, any other laptops or whatever, let me know down in the comments below and I'll try to get my hands on that. But also, if you guys enjoyed this review, please like, share, subscribe, and comment like always, and then I will check all of you guys next time. Cheers, guys.